Hello everyone, and welcome out to episode 298 of The Good, the Bad, and the Geeky. I'm your host, Nick Nitro. And before we begin, let's give a big shout out to our sponsors. Now, although FYI, we have tons of sponsors on our show, but we're just going to focus on two of those, and those two are Packrat Comics. Go to packratcomics.com for more information, but Packrat Comics is the 2015 Eisner Award-winning Best Comic Book Retailer. That's a once-in-a-lifetime award. That means you can only win it once. You can't win it. You can't get nominated again. And they won. That's how good of a store they are, and they are so great. Teresa and Jamie run a sweet comic shop. It is very family-friendly. Anyone can walk in. They don't feel weird or being stared at when they walk in. It's for all ages, adults and kids. And they sell board games, card games like Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, and other card games like Love Letter, Coup. They sell those as well. And they're just a great store. So please check them out, packratcomics.com. Packrat's also the home of The Good, the Bad, and the Geeky Live, which is pretty great as well. So please check them out. It's pretty great. Also, our show is sponsored by Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/goodbadgeeky on getting a 30-day trial. Over 180,000 titles to choose from. I hear it's actually 200, but that's the official verbiage, is 180. So 180,000 titles to choose from. And they're an Amazon company, which means you're getting quality. You're getting gold here. Quality service, quality everything. Again, audibletrial.com/goodbadgeeky. 30-day trial, 180,000 titles. So cool, so awesome. I am actually, one of my books I am getting this week is The Girl on the Train. Oh, so good. I really suggest that you check it out. And I think for all you Potter fans out there, I think they just added the Harry Potter books. Really cool. Now, granted, I prefer the Stephen Fry version, which is a little bit more trickier to get here in the States. You have to show out a lot more because it's an import, but the version they have on Audible is pretty awesome too. So check that out, audibletrial.com/goodbadgeeky. For other information and show notes for our other sponsors, check out gbgpodcast.com or check out the show notes for this episode. Also, if you get a second, please go ahead and subscribe to us on iTunes or leave us a review. All the reviews you give us on iTunes actually help the show out. If you enjoy the show, or maybe you have some feedback for the show, then please leave that there. We'll address it on the show itself because, again, we want to make the show better for you guys out there listening. We've been doing the show since 2007, and if you like to hear or see something, then let us know. Oh, so awesome, so cool. So, with that being said, let's talk about this episode topic. It's the movie Trumbo, based on the Academy Award-winning screenplay artist. I think it's Dalton Trumbo, who is played by Academy Award nominee Bryan Cranston. Or I think I know for a fact that he was nominated. He did not win, but he was nominated. And he did such a wonderful job. So, but the film Trumbo, besides the acting, does the film do a good job? Does it really get the point home of what it's trying to sell? Well, let's find out. The film Trumbo is about the blacklist, in particular Dalton Trumbo, who wrote some acclaimed films such as Spartacus, which is the film that is really the thing that broke it, The Brave One, and Roman Holiday. All of those films were nominated for Academy Awards, but he could not take credit for them because of the blacklist. Now, I've seen a documentary on Trumbo, and so there are some interesting facts that the film kind of glances over, but in terms of a story, the film does a really good job. Matter of fact, I don't remember Edward G. Robinson being discussed originally in Trumbo. or I mean, when I've heard stories about the whole rigmarole. So that's interesting. I was really intrigued by that. Edward G. Robinson, he's the guy that talk like this, see? Yeah, see? It was very interesting because I remember him from the crime films, especially Double Indemnity, if I'm saying that right, and the Ten Commandments. And he's one of those actors that they would parody all the time in the old classic Looney Tune cartoons. He is one of those, matter of fact, that was one of the big things. And I didn't know much about him outside of that. And I do remember that he just kind of disappeared. Like you saw him in the gangster roles, but I don't remember him in anything else after that. And this kind of goes on a little bit, honestly, into possibly why, which was, at least if you go by the Trumbo history in the film, I should say, is that he spoke out in the Senate hearing because apparently he was a very public Democrat, which at the time, Democrat and Republican are very different in the time frame. And he didn't mind hearing out other of those opposing viewpoints and whatnot. It's really, really interesting. And of course, as John Wayne and the government really pushes down on Trumbo and his family, it also comes down on Edward G. Robinson, who was played really well by Michael Stuhlbarg. Well, I will say this, though. I do have an issue, a little bit with him. With the role, because there is very much a part in the movie where Trumbo goes over and you don't really know why he's over there, really. It's just almost kind of to serve the fact that you have this little scene where Edward G. Robinson kind of is yelling at him, I had no choice to turn my back on you. I had no choice to turn my back on you or whatever. And you're just like, oh, okay. Interesting. Now, I printed this up because I thought it was interesting to say. He did, during a committee hearing, mention names, but these were names that were already mentioned by the committee. If you watch the film, you get a sense that, no, he named the names. And again, that's what clever editing and clever writing does. This is the actual quote from him from the Senate hearing in 1952. Well, you have Albert Maltz, and you have Dalton Trumbo, and you have, what is the other fellow? The top fellow who they say is the commissar out there. And after being prompted by his questioner, Robinson continued, yes, John Howard Lawson. I knew Frank Tuttle. I didn't know Dmytryk at all. They are the Bookmans, but that I know, Sidney Buckman and that sort of thing. It never entered my mind, though, that any of these people were communists. That's very, very interesting to me. And it kind of undercuts, once you know that, the history that's there. And of course, here's the thing. You can tell this film is probably very much history being politely glossed over for the sake of sensationalism. And that's, that's okay. If you watch a film like Love and Mercy, which I reviewed last week, then you really get a sense of, sometimes it doesn't pay off for that, or it's really hard to say. Being a big fan of the Beach Boys, I really enjoyed the film overall. I just wanted to see more of it. It left me wanting more. Trumbo felt it was what Love and Mercy kind of wasn't, which is it left you wanting more, but it was also kind of fulfilling at the same time. Now, I do know, and this did bother me a little bit, and this is more on the writing side of it, but, and again, if you had to ask me, well, what do you do to make your lead character a likable fellow? Well, you make him not a hard-ass communist. Look, when I went to college, that's one of the things that I think a lot of people who took Political Science 101 were surprised by, that communism is good in theory. And I remember I really enjoyed talking with people, because, people who could talk about it a little bit, because it's just interesting. It's so interesting that you have it at this core. You have that there are people that if everything was fair, everything was the same, it would be a utopian society. The problem, though, is you have people, and people are people. People are people. There we go. Sorry, the pop filter kind of left there, so you probably heard a bigger P than you were expecting. But people are people, and by that I mean that people are going to get jealous. They're going to cry foul anyway. And that's the problem with communism, okay? And then, of course, you have people later on, like Stalin and others, who were Jesus Christ. They were dictators, really. That's what they were. And there's facts that Stalin killed so many of his own people. It's insane. But I digress. Now, what I remember of Trumbo was that he actually supported those regimes. The way the movie makes him out to be is, he's light and fluffy and whatever. He's the good kind of communist. He's just a man. He's a man who has feelings and thoughts and things, and he really just wants to support the workers. But I digress. It's really bizarre. The film is directed by Jay Roach, which I did not know that until I was getting ready to do the show notes. And Jay did a good job. Again, minus that one scene with Edward G. Robinson and Trumbo. It's a little bizarre. It felt very out of place. Bryan Cranston nails it. He nails it. Hedda Hopper is played by Helen Mirren. And John Wayne is in the film, but not played by somebody else. I'm not going to lie, I don't remember him. But Ellie Fanning is his daughter, John Goodman, and the King brothers. I forget the other brother, Stephen Root. Stephen Root is John Goodman, are the King brothers. Louis C.K. is Alan Hurd, who is a combination of a few different writers that were good, dear friends of Trumbo. And man, and the film is really good. Otto Preminger is reflected in the movie. Kirk Douglas is as well, and they try to they go more into Trumbo's version of the story. If you listen to Kirk Douglas one day just woke up and was like, you know what? Fuck the blacklist. I'm gonna make a phone call. Give Dalton Trumbo a parking pass. And you're like, what the fuck? He did what? And that was the end of it. The movie makes a little bit more of an interesting tale of it. And from what I know, it's based more after Trumbo's actual biography of what happened or what occurred. So it's really interesting. And I will say it makes me want to read more information directly about Trumbo himself, because he really is really fascinating individual, and especially I like to see what was kind of glossed over with a nice little indie Hollywood sheen, and what wasn't. So it really is interesting. And there's another actor too. He played Echo in the TV show Lost. He has a little small role, and it just felt very out of place. But it was a wonderful role, and he's a wonderful actor, and he does a good job with it. But it felt like that should have had more there, or maybe it got cut out. I don't know. I guess when you watch movies long enough, you just feel that there probably could have been more with that role and it got cut out, or they never filmed it. You really don't know, but it's interesting, and it kind of takes you out of the movie for a second if it doesn't go anywhere, while everything else is dead on. Like, you wish there was more with the brothers and kind of the conspiracy that they did to cover up, when he was nominated for the Brave one, but he couldn't go, that kind of thing. It's really small and little minor things like that once you know about it, then you're like, oh, I kind of wish they covered that, because that's more. But again, it ruins the gloss that you're trying to sell. I will also give props to, usually in a film like this, when the character does a big speech at the end, especially if he's a writer, they either go for broke and do the speech, or they don't do the speech. And I will say that the speech at the end is really good. It is really, really good. One of my favorite examples of this kind of thing is the film Finding Forrester. You never hear the full essay, or even a decent amount of the essay before they start cutting away and doing as a montage. And it's heartbreaking, because and now really you have in your head something that should be much, much better, but why could you not try? You know what I mean? Because that's more heartbreaking. It's almost as heartbreaking as saying that, oh yeah, by the way, I'm not even going to try to do a sequel to Monsters Incorporated. I'm just going to do a prequel where they go back to college. Yeah. Oh, God. Trumbo, though, does a really good job. They do a finale where he gets an award of some sort, and he has to give a speech about everything he's been through. It sums up the movie for us. What was won? What was lost? And it is really, really good and really, really well done and well handled. I applaud the filmmakers for that, because I'm not gonna lie, that's a hard thing to do when you do a movie. If you watch a movie long enough, you are always going to sit there and go, uh-oh, they're going to do the big speech at the end, and usually it sucks, or they do a montage of it, like in the movie Finding Forrester. But Trumbo, they nail it on the head. So, with that being said, that's all I have to say for the film Trumbo. It's a good film. It's definitely Academy Award worthy of the nomination for Bryan Cranston. I really like some of the acting. C.K. Lewis is in it. I hope I said that correctly. I always fuck up his name for some reason. I'm sorry. No, I didn't. It's Louis C.K. Louis. Jesus fucking Christ. Louis C.K. I gotta keep telling myself that, because I always call it C.K. Lewis. Louis C.K. I don't know why. If I just say, hey, have you seen this special by Louis C.K., and then I think I'm okay, but if I just call him Louis C.K., my dyslexia kicks in. Helen Mirren is really good, even though she's very clearly the antagonist. What I really find interesting, too, I will just throw this in there, is that the guy who plays John Wayne is actually kind of good. He doesn't necessarily 100% look like John Wayne, and he doesn't necessarily sound like someone doing an impression of John Wayne, the Duke. But, and this is what's really interesting, is that they paint him, and if you listen to last week when I did Love and Mercy, I kind of, at least I think I did, kind of painted a picture that Landy, who's the antagonist, that you kind of wish that there was a little bit more three dimensions there. John Wayne, you kind of got that. Like, he felt like an actual real person, which is appreciated by all accounts. Now, what's also one last little fun fact is that Trumbo's daughter Mitzi dated Steve Martin, and he talks very, very, very lightly about her in the book Born Standing Up, which is really good. But I just wanted to throw that out there, and I believe, from what I've read before doing the episode, that his real life daughter is a mixture between Mitzi and the other daughter. So, what's her name? Nicola or Nikki, whatever. Mitzi and Nicola. is kind of a combination of the two for the Nicola character or Nikki character in the film, played by Ellie Fanning. Okay. Enough of me blabbering away. Thank you all for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode of The Good, the Bad, and the Geeky. Please go to iTunes, leave us a review. Whatever it is, good or bad, we appreciate it. And, of course, check out our sponsors on the show notes or go to gbgpodcast.com for more information. Thanks for listening, everybody. Bye.
Get out of here without cheese! You're a creep! Go away! We're having a good time until you showed up, cheapers! Go have some coffee with cream or something! Because I'll tell you something! This is a happy place!